In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. You're listening to a Muslim futurist. What that means is I am Muslim because I consider truth, the original truth, to be beyond this reality. I consider we're all inside a simulation, and what we consider to be ourself is actually bunch of simulations that have strangely aligned for a sort of situation to occur, you know? So, on some level, I am wondering about how far does this existential server go that we log in and log out? To honestly dive into the talk. All right. Okay, there we go. So, what is the date today? It's July 2nd, 11 p.m., Toronto, Canada. I treat this as a sort of briefing that I'm one human being out of 8 billion human beings right now being live streamed in human history. And how shall a civilization sail through, galactic unknown waters? In today's lecture, guys, I am honestly attempting to speak about a dimension that is very personal, but I think I am accessing something that is beyond the personal archetype. Life is about like, okay, this song is too oceanic. It's like Mr. Within swimming right now and giving a talk while he's swimming, you know? And people are like such dedication to the art form. All right. All right, let's get real here, all right? So first of all, thank you for everybody's attention, but where I was going with this is that I want to explain to you what is like as a human being. So we're like 8 billion human beings. We're all living right now. And the way the kind of mind, in some sense, like let's just treat this as sort of prototype for discussion. All right. Honestly, the sentence asking God for from the asking God for the greatest advancement from the depths of your heart, and God is the correct path. The reason I'm like this human being who's like, all right, let's talk about these ideas here, is because I want to communicate to you how I had a sort of like from the beginning, from the moment I was born till now, I've lived like 12,000 days. these 12,000 days has been a sort of journey in a sort of existential simulation, right? There was a time where I was like, the moment I understood what the idea of a multiplayer online game was, I'm like, wait a minute, is that what existence is? Have I been logging in and logging out this whole time? The point of it, honestly, is I think it's like this. This is my attitude. We've entered this world room, and at some point, we're going to leave this world room. But the whole point of it is, what can we advance? For me, it's as if like people are like, "Yo, man, show the past some respect," and I'm like, "Yeah, I have." But on some level, does the past show respect to the future? The point of it is that it's like everything is possible, just like there's so much space in the cosmos. You know, somebody's like, "Yo, man, how big is the interstellar real estate market?" They're like, "Yo, man, we don't know where the edge of the cosmos is." Honestly, what I'm trying to say is that we're alive for some time and we have to contribute to something beyond us. I think the way the human being, honestly, is designed is that it needs a higher ideal. Do you know what that means? That means if you treat yourself as the highest ideal, which is ego, narcissism, whatever you want to call it, the person's just being like, "No, man, I just want to look at life only through one lens." It's like you're tunneling through various moments. The whole point of it is, are you extracting value? Are you defining yourself based on your past? Or are you defining yourself based on your future? And somebody's like, how can I define myself based on my future? Honestly, what it is that in the same way, like your mind can remember like what you did yesterday, in this with the same instantaneity, if you had true intent, sincere intent, it would be in some sense like, how can I tell you? It's like if somebody told me, "Yo, man, explain what intelligence means in this world," I'll be like, it's so many layers because you're asking me in this system, like it's called systems thinking. It's like there's this, like we're not just like a bunch of individuals in the world. The whole world is a system. Now we think it's an unconscious system. Like it's not. We think we have no choice. We're like, okay, it's like, okay, human civilization is a sort of measure of advancement. The whole point of it is when you become a futurist, you are actually wondering about, how do I say it? Like it's, yeah, it's so easy to prove. Like if I tell you, "Yo, can you imagine like a flying car? Can you imagine like a spaceship house? Like imagine in the future skyscrapers, like when there's a hurricane, they're like spaceships and they just go into like, interstellar orbit." Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. Buildings are gonna become spaceships, yo. That's a next level lecture. Once the skyscrapers will become spaceships. Anyways, guys, the whole point of it is I'm trying to share with you how in this world, of course, we're like a candle. We're here for some time. Like whatever even you're hearing right now, it's like some soul that's here for some time. And so the whole point of it is, how far do we see? And where does the original presence of our awareness begin? And at some point you realize it's so funny because the whole point of it is society is conditioned. It's like, "Yo, man, society programmed you." It's like, okay, but how? To treat yourself as a noun and base the noun's value only from the past. Imagine you're someone who wants to do like, you know, you wanted to give like 1,000 lectures to the UN. How do I say it? the scale of your perception suggests your might. Do you know? On some level, I realize if somebody tells me, like, what's the greatest power, I'll be like, to understand what's going on. And they're like, what does that mean? It comes to the conclusion that at some point the human experience has limitations. And what does it do with its limitations? Okay, so it has layers, but it also has limitations, and in some sense, the human being's like, all right, I'm existing in the human form, kind of like a lost soldier on a battlefield, you know, who it's like there's 8 billion soldiers on a battlefield, and they're like, how do we know they're soldiers? They're all dressed the same. They're the same human species. They're just divided by the culture and land's behavior before they were born. Like that's pretty much what's going on. But at some point, you snap out of for me, one of the most greatest ways that my mind advanced, honestly, guys, was I became fascinated by everything that I don't know. I was like, whoa. I've been kind of like just, wondering, do you know what I mean? It's like somebody who's looking at something under a microscope and they're like, yo, man, what am I doing? There's the cosmos and there's like, what am I doing looking at bacteria when there's astrophysics and telescopes? You know what I mean? Ultimately, it's the discovery of geometry and how animated the geometry is, and the whole point of it is the human geometry is animated in ways that is unknown. Do you know? I'm like, how do I say it? When I say I'm a futurist, there's an awareness to that. Okay, where is the simulation going? It's as if, okay, I'm a simulation here, or let me say it this way: there's a universal simulation. That means the whole universe. Right now, you go and ask a scientist, they're like, yo, man, how old is this world? Tell us, oh wise calculator. And the scientist says 13.8 billion years. The observable universe. Like, we don't even know how much of it we're seeing, looking at. We're just looking at a chunk of it. And we're like that little bit. It's like we're seeing a tip of the iceberg, and we're like that tip of the iceberg is like 13.8 billion years old. They're like, wait a minute, though. Do you see the whole iceberg? And we're like, no, but we got to tell people something. It's the advancement of awareness and consciousness, and at some point you're like, okay, like my body's a life form, my mind's a life force. There's a universal simulation. There's, in some sense, let's say, galactic simulation. There's a planetary simulation. On that planet, there's the creature simulation. On that creature simulation, there's a conscious simulation. On that conscious simulation, it's like the planet is a simulation. We, as biological organisms that kind of claim ourselves to be human, we like associate with that view, which we are actually. But the whole point is that there is something more than important than us. Like that's the whole point of it. Is that anytime like somebody said something that it like kind of like the depth of it hit me like it was as if like an arrow just passed and I was how to tell you, but it was like they said that on some level. Without an ending, what value did the beginning have? Do you understand? It's like there's a cycle of beginning and ending, but some because we're conscious. If we weren't conscious, it wouldn't matter. Like something would happen and then end. You know, like some sort of biological or organism simulation would happen and end, but we're conscious of it. We're like strangely aware that we're aware, and we're also aware that we leave. So it's like this consciousness creates this zone of perception where the human being's like, wait a minute, so I'm here for a little while. I have a DNA that no other human being has. There's 8 billion of us, and somehow, like, we're honestly like a species on Earth, but everybody's like, nah, man, I identify with this chunk of land. You think like a hypothetical sci fi, like, alien extraterrestrial airport? Do you know what I mean? Futuristic extraterrestrial sci-fi airport. Do you think the extraterrestrial person would be like, sir, pass your document? And the person's like, here, oh, you're from Earth. All right, welcome, sir, And the person's like, wait a minute, do you know Earth? And the person's like, yeah, sure, I know Earth. And it's like, yo, man, I'm from Canada, from Earth. You know what I mean? The person's like, sir, did you say you're from Canada? It's like we don't care. We just see you as a species on a giant celestial object. What I'm trying to say is like just think the point of it is when you conceptualization is turning things into it's like you're turning things into a noun, or how do I say it? It's like you treat yourself as a concept right now, but the concept has meaning only when you look at the context of it. It's like, well, how am I a self right now? Because there's a world here. Because the self is separate to the world. Like physically, we're separate to the world. Now, the fascinating thing is that our awareness to our body is separate, even though it's where our body is. There was this picture somebody showed. It was like, I don't know, it was like on Facebook or something. And it was like this picture of just the brain and all the nerves of the brain. Do you know? It wasn't just showing a brain, just the brain. Like when we say brain, we think of just like, something in the skull, but it wasn't just that. It was like all the stems of it, do you know? And so in some sense, it's just purely just the brain and just the completely whatever constituted the brain. Imagine it was on like some table and the person's like, this is what you are. And I was like, what the fuck? It's like one of those posts you see that you kind of like quicker pass by, do you know? But anyways, there was something that in some sense I was like, okay, like on some level we don't see it. People are like, yo, man, there's such beautiful people in the world, but inside, if you saw inside everybody's body, you're like, oh my god, what am I looking at? Surgeons are like, they're like next level human beings, honestly. I think surgeons are simultaneously like also like the greatest philosophers or something. Anyways, the whole point of it is, at some point, you wonder about your value system in this world. Okay, let me try to sum up on the way back to the title. And I'm trying to say, like, physically, like, personally, I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? The body, like, the worst fear of it is death. It's the finite. So my body, the dimension of the physical existence, it's like I fear the finitude. That which is finite, the ending. Okay, but now if you say, what does the mind fear? The mind doesn't fear the ending. The mind fears infinity. The mind doesn't fear the finite, it fears the infinite. Let me tell you why. Because the mind is using it, because it is navigating the body, it is identifying with an individual physical self to the world. So in some sense, it is also acting in the same way with the body. You know, somebody said, what is the ego? The best explanation I've heard of it is that it's a defense mechanism of consciousness. And I was like, great answer. Do you know what that means? That means the reason we animate as people is not just because we were named and there's like that's how people are. It's because individualism of a sort of self in a story is the kind of defense mechanism of protecting the inner sovereignty, because the human being, every person you have seen on this planet, they are not just physical creatures. There's every person that I've seen and they have communicated. When I was young, I didn't notice, but then I was like, okay, I snapped out of it and I realized the linguistic simulation. And I'm like, yo, man, it's like, they're like, yo, is the human species honest? And I'll be like, it's very strange. Because every person is in their own hidden world of meaning. They're looking at things through their own hidden world of meaning, and that truly we can, like, I believe truly we cannot understand each other's past ever. You know, if somebody explains a story from their past, and they're like, "Yo, do you understand?" It's like the answer is like, "No, I can't. I don't have your eyes." Because the whole point of it is that there's a division right now. Right now, we're not all like one telepathic collective hive mind, okay? Where every being is associating with its biological organism boundary, right? The whole point of it is, if, like, I treat it like this, that if I for a second just put away the emotional view and I just looked at what's going on objectively and subjectively, or even before subjectively, I looked at objectively what's going on here. This is my conclusion that, okay, so there's a time lifespan. That means there's a certain time you're here on this planet. It's also like a bell curve. That means as you get closer to the end, your energy levels, how do I say it? It's like life, moves in the way it does. And I'm trying to say, like, okay, so it's an opportunity ultimately. Consciousness is like, whoa, I'm somewhere. Why? Okay, let me see what's going on. Like, that's the approach. So first, it's to realize existence is saying, hey, you have an opportunity as an intelligent being in this existential, elemental and biological and natural simulation to kind of function as a separate individual entity to the environment. If trees became conscious suddenly, they'd be like, yo, man, are these human beings walking separate to the earth? Is that even possible? Let's stop for a little. Anyways, where I'm going with this is that greatness is more important than our individual simulations of meaning. Reality is, for me, the only way human beings can understand each other if they are civilized. When I say civilization, that means we've all agreed, like, all right, nobody do anything stupid. And let us just somehow advance efficiently as a species. For me, the whole point of it, I was like, yo, man, like, I have to make a choice. How long is even nationalism? And I was like, nah, man. It's like there's such colossal interstellar challenges that the species needs to immediately unite. Species Unity Day. Where I was going with this is, ultimately you have this existential opportunity, like this physiological opportunity, and then this physiological opportunity is providing a psychological opportunity. The psychological opportunity is providing an awareness, to what is even the boundary or its limitations. And at some point, I'm trying to tell you, once you realize the limitations of your body is the finite, the limitations of the mind is infinite, at some point the mind wonders, like, at some point the mind's like, there's an infinite ways I can just give meaning and value to any moment. Do you know what I mean? So the whole point of it is the mind fears infinity out of an infinite multiple choice what to select. So there's a powerlessness there. Okay. And at some point I was like, wait a minute, and yet that far edges of the future, like, how far will, the essence or the significance of our being go? And I realized it all depends on what is moving reality. And when you wonder from that framework, then suddenly something fascinating happens. You realize every moment of your life, pretty much any perception you've had, it's had known variables and unknown variables. And the known variables were based on the past, and the unknown variables had to become a conscious choice to be like, okay, equipped with my past, how do I enter the future? Ultimately, I'm trying to say that it's like, okay, I'm here for a certain time. What's the most important thing, that the most advanced state of attention? Like, what's the most important thing, that value we can find in this world while we're here? And my conclusion was, I reached a point where it was like, okay, I don't know, The unknown variables in this world are so much more than the known variables. So me trying to just filter the whole, like, this infinite unknown changing event, not infinite, but like this like colossal, worldly event, into this kind of like character in a story narrative. I'm like, yo man, is that the right path? And at some point you realize, no, at some point you have to be honest with your own limitations as a being. And when you are, at some point you're going to be like, what's the next thing? And this is where the ego has to be like, okay, the ego has to make, every ego politically has to make a choice. That if I want to remain an ego, I don't access the greater awareness that is accessible on earth. The whole point of it is not like the ego is right and wrong. Right and wrong is just based on, like, the actions you decide. It's based on your decisions. But I'm saying that all right, to continue. So guys, I think that there's 8 billion human beings on this world, and honestly, how long has it been? It's been 30 minutes, but I think I've reached the point to kind of get to the final stage of this lecture. At some point, I don't know, in my experience as a human being on Earth, I've lived 12,000 days on this planet, 12,000 new days, and at some point I have come to this conclusion. Okay, what is it the greatest, what is present in the greatest blind spot of the species? I have truly wondered about this, and I've realized, why has it convinced itself it's empty? And I realized emptiness was a deceptive tactic. Emptiness is kind of very cruel. It's like being cruel to the soul. That means they're like, yo man, was Buddha a kind person? I'm like, I don't know, man. He was like looking at emptiness and then not realizing, as long as there's an awareness to it, what is emptiness? At some point you realize your body is a life form, your mind is a life force. You wonder about, okay, what is this life force doing? You realize it is present in a world, and then you wonder about what's going on in this world. You realize there's 8 billion other creatures that look like you, and then you wonder about, okay, what is the greatest thing that these 8 billion creatures can do? And in the personal experience, I've asked myself, okay, that depends on what's the greatest thing that a person can do. And the greatest thing that a person can do, somehow, I don't know why, what I feel I'm telling you right now is coming truly from like the depths of my heart. I believe the greatest thing we can do in this world is to wonder about the most advanced. And the answer truly to that is not something I'm saying, it's just what it is that it is beyond the world room. This is why Islam does not shape God. This is why, in some sense, Islam is to me a very advanced view on reality. That means, just for a second, separate culture and wonder about, what is the point of the book? What was it written for? Was its intention to take the human soul to a greater station of manifestation? What is the true aim of us being human beings? When will we feel the heartbeat of the species? When will we realize beyond the heartbeat of the species, there's the heartbeat of the world? And beyond the heartbeat of the world, you begin to realize this is where it's not about believing, I would say, or not believing in God. It's realizing that if you can look at ants and notice like you're kind of like a higher power and the ant is a lower power, like if a politician gave a speech to a group of ants, they'll be like, yo man, I just see shadows, you know? But I'm telling you, if the point of it is the most advanced state of awareness is realizing we could be like the ants. And this is where God is unfathomable. In Islam, it says, La ilaha illallah. It means there is no God but God. That means there is no concept or shape or form or anything that has a beginning and ending that can equate the original singularity that everything is returning to. Because where else can the endings go? It is like it's not about just like physical consequence. It's about wondering about what if you're in the presence of the most advanced intelligence, because God created the world, and they're like, where is God? It's not like God has disappeared. We are within a divine surveillance state. We're inside an elemental simulated testing zone. We're manifesting as beings, but we're a life force as well. We look at reality and wonder about why is the unknown there, and why is it that it's like the human species has been storytelling over this, celestial object this whole time. So for me, at some point, I was like, okay, the body has limitations. The body can't give the answer. The answer is physicality is not the answer. And then I was like, okay, objective reality is not the answer. So what am I left with? Subjective reality? I'm like, no, subjective reality cannot give an answer. It's like objective reality limited to duality, but subjective reality limited to infinity. It's as if, okay, you go beyond, and it's as if what is a value beyond form? And you realize the value beyond form is the original before any simulation there was to project value. So it's kind of like if somebody said, what does it mean to be original? The answer is, it's as if you can't trust life, you simplify your reality to a state where you can, and in some sense, the whole point of it is, I think, honesty with the there is a higher power here, folks, but what it is unimaginable. For a religious person, there's this beautiful view that if a person wants to give themselves something or get something, it's limited to their mind. It's limited to the imaginable. But when God wants to give you something, it comes to you in unimaginable ways. That means your awareness is limited. It can try to get things, but on some level, what if you for a second realize you're not in an empty room? You're actually in the presence of the most advanced possible awareness to reality. It's as if right now I am not just communicating to you. I'm communicating to whatever all manifestation is in the presence of. And what that is truly is the one and only. You don't understand how revolutionary it is. If somebody tells me, why is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you know the final messenger? For as a religious person, why that is a valid view is because in some sense what Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, started was in some sense what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, finished. What that means is that Islam is so advanced. There is no, I don't know how human beings can use those Islamic set, like the phrases from the Holy Quran for violence. I don't understand how that can, even if it's there, but should it be used, or should we just be like, we don't know what it means yet? You know, I think that's a safer view rather than in some sense being like, okay, human beings are capable of understanding that. The Holy Quran is such an advanced text because at the beginning of some of the surah, it has, at the beginning of the surah, it has like 3 letters, just 3 random letters. To us is random, but it's just 3 letters and nobody knows. And the whole point of those 3 letters is to be like, okay, understand, even linguistically, you can't know it. But the point of it is, faith means realizing it's not about you just reading a book. It's about you realizing that you are in the presence of the original intelligence. So, and why is it now that as a human being, whoever I am, why have I felt like, all right, let's talk about this in cyberspace? Because I don't know, I feel it leads to a true activation. And this is I guess something that, when I say asking God for the greatest advancement from the depths of your heart, it means when you realize human limitation and how powerless we are when it comes to truly what's going to happen here, actually. It's beyond our control, many variables. We're just acting like we can know the known variables, you know? But really, we don't know. It's like we act like ourselves, like, yo, man, I'm this specific noun. It's like, no, man, we're all within an unknown verb, you know? We're just storytelling to not kind of, overwhelm ourselves. But anyways, when I say asking God for the greatest advancement from the depth of your heart and why God is the correct path, it's because at some point you realize if you treated yourself as the higher power, it's actually I believe it's self-destructive, but in some sense, I'm telling you, when you realize truth is beyond the simulation, that's when suddenly, like, values such as love, meaning, care, like genius, wisdom, gentleness, grace, there's so many ways that civility, so many ways that we can activate as human beings into a civilized state. And the whole point of it is it becomes a civilized state. What that means is at some point we realize our egos cannot act like they are kings of the world. Human beings should be compassionate. Why? Because you have to patiently be like, okay, can I ever know who someone else is? Because the true answer is, if you knew who someone else is, you would be them. It would be weird. It's not possible. God has designed it in a way where, in some sense, our individualism is our kind of like our like our own sovereignty. The whole point of it is, though, what is the most important thing to be aware of? And for me, it's like, this world is not an empty room. It has a host. The host is beyond manifestation. Nothing in the world room. If a shimmering light being appeared and helped me out, and at the end I was like, yo, what are you, shimmering like me? And it's like, yo, I'm God. I'll be like, no, you're not. Nothing in this world can be God. God is beyond a simulation. Anything that has a beginning and ending. Miracles are kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, and I can't even, but what I'm trying to say is, just whoever you are as a being or soul, I know that we're all kind of freaking out here, and there's, like, again, 8 billion people, so imagine there's 8 billion boxes, 8 billion, a box on every person's head. They got to take off this box, and they'll suddenly see the box of the species. Everybody's inside this united species. Then we take the box off the species. We see we're stewards of the world. And once we take off that box, we realize in some sense what we are is how all simulations return to the original state. The whole point of it is, like, what did you do with all the years you had to be something? So from the depths of, at least I have in some sense prayed for the ultimate advancement of humanity. Sincerely. There was a moment where I was like, God, human beings don't know what to do. It's like we have emotional leaders, like we need God, please, in some sense, advance humanity, because truly there is a potential. When God said, I created man, when God, through the theological lens, when God created man, Guys, I don't know how much of it was muted or how much of it you heard, but anyways, the last thing I said is imagine like an art gallery. You go to an art gallery. When you go to an art gallery, like let's say lots of people are looking at the same artwork. One person looks at it, it's like, yo, man, that's beautiful. And one person looks at it, it's like, that's like the most laziest nonsense, you know? you know? And at some point you realize it's like so many human, it's like how do I explain it? We are giving meaning to what we see, but what we see wasn't designed by our mind. So it's as if we designed the meaning, we input the meaning. That means when somebody, this is how fascinating life is, because when you look at life, you're like, okay, who is it? What does it mean to be a person? What does it mean to be a conscious, a biosocial agent in reality? It's so fascinating that at some point you realize it's just like how caveman discovered fire. Right now, our hearts are discovering the original power of reality. God is present, and it's all about being aware of the depth of this. That means the greatest power is not wealth, status, all that. Do you know? The greatest power is like, just for a second, being like, out of 8 billion human beings, how far do you see? What is the farthest edges of the awareness of our species? That to me was so much more fascinating than any of my own, ideas. At some point, I'm telling you, it's like there's a species here, and human beings are like advanced technology, and we got to build it. In advanced civilization, the whole point of it is, what is the most advanced way? It's to be advanced for the self, to be advanced in all dimensions. Then the species becomes advanced in all dimensions. And in some sense, we become a presence in the world that is advancing all dimensions. The value of it is we do it consciously. So in my view, I don't know how to interpret it, but it's like, all right, I'm in this world room for some time. I'm going to attempt the greatest. I'm going to wonder about the greatest and sincerely go forth, having acknowledged and in some sense asked God for the greatest, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, my Lord, guide me to the direct path. So at some point on in this reality, for me, it's all about, okay, what am I aware of? How far am I aware of? And if there's limits to the edge of my awareness, what do I do with those limits? I wonder why those limits are there. I try to understand the limitations. And at some point you're no longer identifying with concepts that constantly keep coming. At some point you realize you have been an observer of, you're actually like this fascinating, incredible moment of awareness, and as this presence of incredibility, you're like, for me, I'm telling you, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, just like how fresh air, it feels like breathing fresh air. For the human mind to become fascinated beyond its limits, it's this equivalent. It's like breathing, the fresh air of an inner sky, of a new inner sky. The whole point of it is we advance all, because it's like every person, the advanced probability is there. There's a reason where behind our eyes we can access the future, before in front of our eyes we enter it. It's kind of like humanity's kind of doing a little time traveling there, but it's doing it in an abstract probability way. The more we become aware, the more we care, the more we care, the more we feel. When we wonder what we are truly here as beings to do, it's to acknowledge the system admin of the world beyond the world room, to realize that truth is not limited to a changing world, and at some point wonder about why are we aware in a changing world. And in some sense we realize there's a scenario. The scenario has a specific design. We live our lives in this simulations of reality, but at the same time we have to wonder, who else could we have been, in regards to all the decisions that could have been made. you know What is the greatest truth? Is it limited to human perception, or is truth beyond what humanity can fathom? And what's our relationship to it? Though what I've realized is like a great strategy is to be honest. You access like original reality, and as you live honestly in this world, you also avoid like, you know, pre-death terror, psychological terror. And for me, it's just being like, God, you have created me. What is the most advanced life? What is the most advanced way all of this can be? I know it's going forward in my mind. I can see probabilities of it. You know, I realize, the ignorance our species has with time and self-simulated meaning and all of this. We give the meaning to the artwork. The artwork is whatever it is. We call that a tree. It is what it is. You know what I mean? So at some point, the depth of reality is like, how has human intelligence, through narrative, overlaid meaning into every object, in regards to including it into the psychological model of reality, into a subjective model. So at some point, it's like, okay, what is awareness doing in a world? And awareness is aware to objects changing, subjects changing, and if it identifies with those, it can activate through them at any time. But if it identifies with them, it's identifying with a changing reality. A changing reality means is, whoa, life is a verb. We thought like we were like special nouns. What does it even mean to when we say like my birthday, my body, my mind, my soul? Like, do you understand the linguistic simulation is just telling us like, guys, what you are is an awareness prior to your decision that animates in manifestation, correct? That means it's like someone's like thinking about what to do, and they're like, okay, let me think about it. And then what are they doing? They're wondering about like, okay, if I did this, what would happen? If I did that, what would happen? So it's like the mind is engaging. It's like living in the future before it actually does anything in the future. And if you live very fast like this, at some point you realize the edge of speed is the faith in the divine command. That means after you have reached the edge of a natural law or natural laws, you realize what is beyond natural law. It's divine command. What is divine command? That which God knows. The only relationship we can have is have faith, because it is beyond us. In the same way, children need to have faith in their parents because they have what it is. It is their power, their intelligence systems beyond the child's awareness. You know. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is like, how great can it all be, and let us wonder about it before we leave. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. God, God is the correct path, guys. Because God means you have not you're not worshiping an object, subject, or anything simulated. You're being like, okay, this truth is beyond human definition, and I am in the presence of that original truth. So it's as if like, yes, even though I'm living in a simulation, but I'm aware that the original awareness of reality, the original being, is watching the simulated manifestation. So what is our true performance is not just bodies, minds, but as truly souls. And the soul has to, in some sense, be like, all right, I'm here in this sort of position. What is the most intelligent, greatest outcome? And what I've realized is, it's not just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is important. At some point, you take a deep breath and you're like, okay, what am I doing in existence? You take a deep breath and you're like, why am I okay, am I being an existential entity right now? What does that even mean? And the whole point of it is you become fascinated that the way you've known your life has just been one angle of perception to a place where there's infinite views. And so the only way human beings can enter the future is that we have to build together. What that means is we can't identify with each other's past. Like the dating scene, they're like, yo man, tell me about your past. It's like, what is that bullshit? It's like you can never understand each other's past. You have to, in some sense, co-create in the future. So to me, it's all about like, yo, man, they made like global society think they're all nouns, and they're all depressed because they're like, yo, man, I'm a noun, and the only way a noun has meaning is based on the past. But if you're a verb, the future has incredible meaning. Wonder about how advanced it can be at the depths of your heart. You'll realize your limitations. And for me, I just realized, all right, I have faith in the higher power, the original power, as a simulated being. Because this, when even though for a Muslim, the soul is the secret of God and also the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the command of the system admin beyond the system. And it's just like being like, all right, it's the original return of the soul to the awareness of the original. After this life, it's like I'm meeting the system admin. And I'm gonna see like, all right, was it enough? And it's like, forgive me if it wasn't enough. But the whole point of it is it was also fascinating. That's the thing, fascination. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can find fascination by just caring how advanced the future can be, how advanced humanity can be. When I say advanced, not like cyborg technological stuff. I'm talking about like advanced in how in all dimensions of awareness. Do you know, in the same way when I say united species, like nations have to unite, in the same time, like they're like, parts of a brain that are separate, but they have to become one kind of collective, species mind. What that doesn't mean like we're all like, I'm not talking about like 2,000 years in the future. I'm going to talk about like 100 years in the future. But I'm saying like, at some point, it's the value of our awareness to notice the original and to accept our part, that we're here to go forth. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful.